Hello and welcome to Movieland. I'm CJ Johnson. Thank you for joining me. Happy birthday to us, happy birthday to us, happy birthday, dear Movieland, happy birthday to us. And I can actually sing that song and not worry about, I think, Warner coming after me and asking me for money, because only a couple of weeks ago, some judge, I believe in the United States, maybe in England, I'm not sure, ruled that that was not actually a copyright owned by Warner, but was in the public domain. And the backstory to that is that every single time that song has been used in a movie or in any sort of creative work for ages and ages and ages, Warner has been issuing these demands of a payment of a few thousand American dollars. And people have been paying it because the demand has always come with a threat, except those who have not paid it supposedly have never had the threat followed up on them. So it was just a whole big bunch of bullying, and it can go on no longer. So happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me, happy birthday, dear Movieland, happy birthday to me. Why am I singing happy birthday? Because it's the 150th episode of Movieland. And to celebrate, I'm also taking a small video of this show on my iPhone, and I'll put that up on YouTube or something if anyone wants to watch me record this. It'll be an interesting one to watch. I mean, it will be an uninteresting one to watch because I don't have a guest. I'm just going to give you 3 reviews. It's a review-a-thon, a review extravaganza. Maybe that's what I'll call it, a review extravaganza today to celebrate 150 episodes. Since it's 150 episodes, please would you do me the great favor of going into iTunes, making sure you're a subscriber to the podcast. It's free, of course. Give us a rating and a review. Rate us 5 stars, obviously. Just click the 5 star, the 5th star, and just write a tiny review, even 1 sentence. CJ's show is fun. Movieland is informative. His guests are great. I loved the episode with M. Night Shyamalan. Or, write us a whole paragraph telling us in depth why you like us. But please say you like us, hopefully. I assume you do. That's why you're listening to us. Also, please just search for Movieland on Facebook. Find the page, the Movieland page, and click like or join the group or whatever you need to do. I think you just need to like it and join the over 1,500 people, and that way we can have a conversation going on. Follow me on Twitter at CJ Movieland or at CJ Sydney or both. Read my written reviews and become a subscriber to my blog. Once again, it's free, filmmafia.com.au, filmmafia, all one word, .com.au. And as always, make sure you go see movies at the cinema, the most important thing of all. I ask you to do all these things on this 150th episode. Take some time out to just give a little bit back to the program. Oh, you know what the other thing is? And this is some of the things my colleagues say, and I never think to say, just spread the word. Just put a link to the show on your Facebook or on your Twitter and pass the word along to your movie friends. Say, hey, if you like movies, you like podcasts, you'll like this. Oh, also, you can listen to the show on Saturdays. We are moving to 7:30 p.m. on Saturdays on your local ABC radio station, anywhere you are in Australia. So from 6 to 7:30, kind of more of an adult show. Maybe I can swear. Not that I really particularly want to swear, although I did get a little... I did get a word in my ear when I played... F the Police by by NWA in the interview I did with Ice Cube and his son, because that uses the F word. Anyway, let's get on with some reviews. Enough said. Hello, people in video land. All right, I'm going to review Sicario, Macbeth, and Legend. Got my coffee here. Sicario, Denis Villeneuve's 7th feature, is easily his most ambitious and his best. It carries his strong and singular cinematic voice, is spookily rich in atmospheric and seemingly authentic detail, is expertly crafted and chock full of beautiful performances. Unfortunately, it also suffers from Villeneuve's propensity to wallow in ponderous self-satisfaction, and its storytelling is at times muddled and murky. Overall, it's absolutely worth seeing, and on the big screen, no doubt, but it's a little frustrating. Emily Blunt photographed as a real person by Roger Deakins, and more on his work in a bit, plays Kate, an FBI agent based in Phoenix, Arizona, who specializes in rescuing kidnap victims. After displaying some inspiring work in the film's crisply intense Cold Open, she's recruited by a shadowy advisor, Josh Brolin, to take her skills further toward the front line in the war on the Mexican drug cartels, and in accepting the gig, loses whatever shreds of innocence she may still possess. In keeping with Villeneuve's work, in particular Incendie 2010 and Prisoners 2013, it's a nasty, dirty, violent, relentlessly dark universe we're presented with, and the story of Kate's plunge into the grim realities of the USA's more extreme foreign policies is told without sentiment, pity, or, for that matter, hope. Mexico's Juarez is presented as a modern hell, and the situation with the cartels essentially untenable. The film is peopled with characters we don't care for, doing things we might very well find repugnant, but with Kate and her FBI partner Reggie, Daniel Kaluuya, Villeneuve manages to construct a moral spine strong enough to carry us through the muck. Blunt has never been better. Her Kate is simultaneously strong and fragile, knowing and naive, and her dilemma is palpable and believable but never overplayed. It's as though Blunt is letting us understand Kate in parcels, saving surprising and realistic aspects of her character for appropriate moments and keeping some under soulful lock and key. Roger Deakins' cinematography is simply sublime, switching unobtrusively from formal setups to documentary reminiscent handheld, from technologically enhanced POV to cold fluorescent brutalism. Deakins' camera fills us with the choking dust of this desert world. The film is set between Arizona and Mexico. It's unflashy stuff, but it's the subtle work of a true master. The score by Johan Johansson, Oscar-nominated last year for The Theory of Everything, is flashy stuff, drawing attention to itself with intense, overwhelming bass chords, but it completely suits the film's frightening, almost horror movie aesthetic. There were elements of the storytelling that I found madly frustrating. One extended episode involving the excellent and swiftly ascending actor John Bernthal still makes no sense to me after a whole sleep's worth of pondering, and I'm going to have to ask a couple of highly film-literate colleagues, both of whom loved this film, if they can possibly explain it. Villeneuve's pacing is eccentric to the point of detriment, and the final 20 minutes or so unfortunately get bogged down in self-seriousness. They are overextended and slow. There are some astonishingly great episodes, however, including an early mission to Juarez that is among the best sequences I've seen in a film this year, and second build Benicio del Toro as a shadowy advisor to Josh Brolin's shadowy advisor gives a perfect Del Toro performance, as opposed to a ludicrous Del Toro performance. The bull has got his groove back. If this film pops up in the Oscar nominations, and it very well might, especially for cinematography, direction, and original screenplay, Taylor Sheridan, expect to see Del Toro get a nod. He's simply awesome. That's Sicario, out now in most regions of the world, and once you've seen it, you'll be looking forward to our next episode of Movieland, number 151, because I'm going to do an in-deep episode with Maz Lahuti and Jim Flanagan and maybe some other Movieland regulars about Sicario, and that should be really interesting, and hopefully we'll have some strong opinions. Maybe we'll even have a bit of a disagreement about it, which would always be fun. You're listening to CJ Johnson with Movieland. It is our 150th episode, and we're just doing some reviews for it. Macbeth. I'm going to open my squirty water and have a little drink. See? Good old sparkling mineral water, and if you're watching on the video, which I'll put on YouTube, there you go, you saw me drink. Macbeth. There is a strong argument to be had that Macbeth is the best play ever written, better than Hamlet, better than King Lear. It's leaner and cleaner than those plays, with a relentless narrative drive, exceptional characters, and an absolute cracker of a plot. It's a natural for big screen adaptation, and there have been a bunch. Orson Welles made an excellent, claustrophobic, highly stylised Scottish accent version in 1948. Roman Polanski made a supremely cinematic and bloody version in 1971. Australian Jeffrey Wright set his 2006 adaptation starring Sam Worthington among the criminal gangs of Melbourne, and there have been countless television and stage-captured versions as well. Now, Australian director Justin Kurzel, whose Snowtown, known in the United States as the Snowtown Murders, I declared the best film of 2011, has taken a stab at it, setting his version in Scotland at the time the events are supposed to take place, which is around 1050 AD, with Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard as the Macbeths. He's currently shooting Assassin's Creed with Fassbender and Cotillard, and Macbeth DOP Adam Arkapour is there too, so obviously the collaborative spirit here is high. The wind-blasted Scottish moors are quite obviously the perfect landscape for this cold-blooded story, and in setting the story in its exact time and place, Kurzel exposes the severity of these characters' lives, while also being able to obliquely comment upon our own expectations. Macbeth's castle is a series of tents. Burnham Wood is hardly a rainforest, and God forbid we should expect the doctor to be up on the latest sound medical practice. This physical world is shot impeccably by Arkapour, who is one of those cinema artists for whom the question of winning an Oscar is not will he, but simply when will he. He has a truly original and unique eye. The production design by Fiona Crombie, who for some reason does not seem to have gone along with the gang onto Assassin's Creed, is impeccable, complemented by Alice Felton's authentic-seeming costumes and, in the battle scenes, the Scottish war makeup we remember so fondly from Braveheart. While these tents and leather garments, set on the moors like elements of a lonely outpost on a distant planet, may seem too contained to interest our eye for an entire feature film, they last the distance. What becomes monotonous, unfortunately, is Kurzel's and the cast's huge decision to deliver almost all the dialogue in the whole movie in the same measured, quiet tones. Fassbender, Cotillard, Sean Harris as Macduff, Paddy Considine as Banquo, David Thewlis as Duncan, and Jack Raynor as Malcolm all speak Shakespeare's lines impeccably, and wait until you hear Cotillard's excellent Scottish accent, but perhaps in striving for some sort of naturalism or authenticity, almost always extremely intimately. Perhaps a lot of theatre productions allow actors to shout too much, but the overriding choice here flattens the story out, keeping it tonally flat-lined, and at times, such as the discovery of Duncan's body, actually seems to work against the spirit and meaning of the text. When Macbeth finally, just before the final battle, yells out for Seaton to bring him his armour, his raised voice is as refreshing as a cool glass of water. There are sublime moments. The first battle scene is rip-roaringly brilliant, original and exciting, and sets up an expectation of high style and intensity that nothing in the rest of the movie lives up to. The second battle is so subdued as to be, frankly, a big disappointment. A no-dialogue, non-Shakespeare scene at the beginning sets up an aspect of the Macbeth's emotional life that makes an awful lot of sense. The witches are well handled, the violence is cleverly portrayed, and an intriguingly edited mashup of a couple of scenes immediately after Duncan's death give Macbeth and Malcolm a scene, not in the original play, that, if not the perfect telling of the story, is certainly an interesting alternative way of presenting it. There is plenty of precision, but at the expense of passion. We don't need Shakespeare's characters to be shouting all the time, God knows. But this is a tale of sound and fury, and Kurzel's decision to deny us that seems a little churlish. Shakespeare's dialogue is verse, heightened language, and in reducing it all to softly spoken naturalism, one is, unavoidably, reducing it. That's Macbeth. That is certainly out now as of yesterday in Australia, and I think it's opening in England or the UK, Europe, pretty much simultaneously. I'm not sure about when it opens in the United States. Maybe it does open today. I'm not quite sure, but regardless, worth seeing. But they do speak everything, you know, on kind of the one level. All right, let's have a look at one more. More villains as the lead, just like the Macbeths. Also, we are looking at Legend, which instead of the Macbeths is the Cray brothers. I'll have a sip of coffee. For those of you on the video, coffee. Sorry, radio people, subjecting you podcast people. I know I know thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people will listen to this as a podcast, and very, very few will still be watching on YouTube. And so I'm sorry about the silly drink things. Legend. If you don't like your movies to celebrate criminals, avoid Legend, which treats London's notorious Cray twins as if they were tragic heroes, which should be pretty obvious by the title. In yet another stroke of awesome acting, Tom Hardy plays both twins, Reggie and Ronnie, and he does it so well that you seriously do forget it's the same dude, in Ron's case, behind the glasses. Reggie is reasonable and smart and caring. Was he really this reasonable and smart and caring? While Ron is a sociopath. He's also homosexual, paranoid, violent, and by far the more interesting, indeed fun, of the two. The Cray's reign of terror was at its height in the 1960s, and the film takes place mainly in the second half of that decade, not bothering with their early years, to its benefit for my taste at least. The main narrative is constructed through the prism of Reggie's relationship with young East End lass Frances, played very well by Emily Browning, with Ronnie's release from a mental hospital and subsequent loose cannon behaviour running alongside as a sort of B story. But you don't come to a movie about the Crays for a love story or a treatise on mental illness. You come for the criminal activity, and that is ticked off episodically. You get all the highlights: the controversy with Lord Boothby, a perfect John Sessions; the alliance with the US mob, represented London side by Angelo Bruno and played snakily by Chaz Palminteri; the murders, although the relationship with Frank the Mad Axeman Mitchell is not represented, which is strange because it's so juicy; and thankfully a bit of context in the form of the boys' beloved mum and dad, Jane Wood and John McKenna. Ronnie's homosexuality runs as a dominant theme throughout, and the creation of his own queer mini-gang within the firm is an important and intriguing sideshow. Taron Egerton, David Thewlis, again, Christopher Eccleston, Tara Fitzgerald, and Paul Bettany are all along for the jaunty ride. And I think, actually, that Paul Bettany is uncredited, even though he plays a small but very important, major role in the story, at least. Legend is written and directed by Brian Helgeland, who wrote the Oscar-winning screenplay for LA Confidential, and it shares with that film a glossy sheen and a sense of heightened style. Everything is very colourful and very bright, and the tone is fun, fun, fun. These Crays are funnier than they are scary, and Hardy's dual performance, especially as Ronnie, is even more theatrical than his usual heightened style. If this version of the Crays story had been based on a graphic novel, I would not have been surprised. It's got that sort of tone. Instead, it's based on John Pearson's 1972 book, The Profession of Violence, The Rise and Fall of the Cray Twins, which, in line with the resulting film, thoroughly glamorizes the Crays' lifestyles, and which was indeed the result of their wanting someone to write their official autobiography. I have no qualms about gangster movies that glorify the gangsters. I'd have to sacrifice a significant chunk of Scorsese's oeuvre if I did, and I didn't have a problem with the breezy, happy-go-lucky tone of Legend. Indeed, I had a lot of fun throughout. But that does come at the price of any sort of real insight or emotional resonance, and the events towards the end of the film, which should have been kind of shattering, instead simply signaled to me that the story was winding up. Scorsese pitches us glamour gangsters too, but he always manages to include some heavy, dark truths that ultimately keep us aware that we, the taxpayers, are on the right side of morality. Legend suggests we may actually be the mugs. There you go, 3 reviews. Legend, I believe, has been and gone in the UK, I think. I don't know when its release is in the States, but I think in Australia it gets released in a week or 2. Of course, you could be listening to this podcast anytime, but I think it gets released in Australia around mid-October. So you've got Macbeth out now, Sicario kind of out last week, and The Craze in a week or 2. That's if you're listening in Australia. They're all good, all totally worth seeing. I've got reservations with all of them, as you heard. Sicario, awesome, but muddy storytelling, bit too long, slows down a bit too much. Macbeth, really interesting, artistry, great acting, but a bit too monotonal, basically, in terms of the delivery of all of the dialogue. And Legend, really good fun, but without a lot of depth. There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Movieland. I really appreciate it. Our numbers have just gone up and up ever since we began 150 episodes ago. I'm not going anywhere as far as I know. I'm sticking right around, and I'm going to be here for the long term. I love doing this show. I love your feedback. Go join the Facebook page and give some comments on it. Do go to the iTunes page, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and do please comment, leave a review and a rating, preferably a 5-star rating. You can email me directly, johnson.cj@abc.net.au, johnson.cj@abc.net.au. And I'll tell you what, right now, I've got some more tickets to the screening of that Back to the Future documentary on the 21st of October at a beautiful cinema, the Cremorne Orpheum Picture Palace in North Sydney and Sydney. So if you want a double pass for free, I know the last time I offered them, I made you go join the Facebook page, but you might not be on Facebook. It's a little unfair, so you can email me, johnson.cj@abc.net.au, and if you email me and you're one of the first so-and-so to email me, then I'll get back to you and say whether or not you have won, indeed, those double passes, and if you have, they'll be on the door, on the night, with your name on them. Thank you once again, and make sure beyond anything else that you go see a movie at the cinema this weekend. Take care.